Praise the Lord. This is the day that the Lord has made. I am determined to rejoice and be glad in it. My co-host Alex Brown is sick today, but we're going to move on anyhow. Listen, LeBron James has gone to the Lakers, and I'm excited. Go get your coins. Be an owner of a future NBA basketball team. That's the hit news of the week. But on this show today, we have four awesome guests. I have the pleasure today of interviewing one of my group members who is also a business owner and a legendary singer in this area, Reverend Jacqueline Hawkins. We have the incomparable Pastor Terry Streeter from the Mount Pleasant Baptist Church. We have gospel artist Paul Avery, and we have legendary radio show host Tracy Morgan is going to join us today. But before we do all that, we're getting ready to go to a promo about the Independent Gospel Artists Alliance Conference coming up next week. Enjoy.
My name is Summer Pearson. I live in the DMV area, and this was my first year at the IGAA conference, and I can tell you that I loved it. Every minute of it was valuable. I'm leaving here today with connections that I never would have made otherwise with other artists who I can support now and who can support me. We kind of have a family going on. And we also have a network, when we want to go out and do gigs, I can call these people in different cities. Also, the information that was shared with us from people in the industry who know what they're talking about was invaluable. They really gave us the real on what's going on, which is really valuable as an independent artist because we're doing so much on our own and we're just trying to find our way a lot of times. So to have people guiding us and giving us solid advice was invaluable for me. I think every independent artist should be here each year. So that's me.
My name is Marshall Williams. I'm from Wilmington, Delaware, and I just attended the IGAA conference out here in Beltsville, Maryland, and I had a wonderful time, learned a lot of valuable information, and I'm just glad to be here, and I plan on being here next year also. July, I think, if I'm correct,
12th through the 14th.
12th through the 14th, I shall be there, and God bless y'all, and thank you.
We're back. We want to remind you that July the 12th through the 14th is the Independent Gospel Artists Alliance Conference. It's happening at the Queens Chapel United Methodist Church in Beltsville, Maryland. Listen, if you're an indie artist, promoter, marketer, songwriter, singer, you're trying to make it in this ever-changing gospel music industry, you want to make your way to the IGAA conference. Log on to www.indiegospelAlliance.com and register. We have plenty of room for you. But I'm here today with this lovely lady with whom I've known for probably over 20 years. I know over 20 years, but I was trying to pinpoint it. I think it may be 25 years. Yes. She is the Reverend Jacqueline Hawkins. We affectionately call her Jackie Hawkins. She is a business owner. She is a phenomenal singer, a phenomenal preacher, and a phenomenal person. Welcome to the show.
Why, thank you so much for having me today.
Hey. Well, it's good to have you here.
Yes, it's good to be
long
here.
Long overdue.
Wonderful.
Listen, you've been singing all your life.
I have.
How did you get started singing?
I started singing in church. Mm-hmm. My father was the minister of music at the Guiding Light Refuge Baptist Church.
Where's that located?
On Central Avenue. They are still in existence.
Okay.
So he was the minister of music, and he had his children, singing in the choir, and so that's how we actually got started. He didn't believe that I could sing.
Right.
I didn't believe I could sing either.
So, at what age did you sing your first solo?
I think I was 4 years old.
4 years old?
Yeah.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Well, he didn't take long for him to figure out that you could sing.
Right.
And you all been singing ever since, and then your daddy started the Hawkins Singers?
Yes. He was in a group before that, the Culminaires. They were a phenomenal group that was really popular back in the 60s and 70s.
Both male and female?
Yes. He was the pianist, but mainly the women did the singing. And there was a gentleman named Mr. Grooms. He was the manager.
What role did your mom play in that whole scenario?
Making sure that he got to the engagement on time.
Right. Well, you know, you're following in your dad's footsteps. He was also was a hairstylist as well.
He was.
I didn't get a chance to see him, but one time he was at the shop on Benning Road in Northeast Washington.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I had the pleasure of traveling with y'all to
You
Switzerland.
did.
I almost didn't make that flight. I was young.
Oh my
I think
God.
I left my passport at home.
Passport.
And my dad had to drive me all the way from Dulles Airport back to home to make that flight. But that surely was a privilege. And you all recorded a CD. I was part of that as well.
Yes.
Tell me about your your upbringing. What was it like being around a musical family? Your sister sings.
Right. So I remember my dad used to have anniversaries. And oh my God, that was like the craziest time because they were getting their outfits together and they were getting all the music together, and it was just like sheer pandemonium. Outside of that, he was just never home because he was always traveling.
Right.
So we're just okay. We love you, Dad, wherever you are. So he would be gone a lot because he worked a lot, and ministry on Saturdays and Sundays. So yeah.
Right. Well,
but it was fun.
All of his anointing, a lot of his talent, gifted. Of course, it shined down on you and your sister Judy, and your other sister Cynthia. I can't forget her. But you have been the one to just kind of just branch out and do many things. Singing with the Ministers of Music back in the day. That's when I met you.
Yes.
What else have you done that I don't know about?
Okay. I've sung backup for a couple of artists, and Patrick being one. I've had some solos with Patrick, and of course you. I've been singing. How long have I been singing with you?
21 years.
21 years.
Yeah.
And I really have to say I cannot turn that. I just can't get that out of my head that I've been with you for 21 years, and it has been a pleasure to sing with you.
Well, God bless you. It's been a pleasure having you.
Yes.
I think you're the only original member that's with me now. Well, I don't think I know to be true, although I'm here. It was you. It was a couple others. Ralph and some others, and Karen Beverly. Yeah. The names just go on and on. But when you're in the ministry that long, it's just really, it's almost impossible for everybody to stay around that long.
That's true.
For one reason or another.
But we have a phenomenal group now. We do.
Yeah, we're doing good. We're doing good. We have some people that are young at heart.
Yes.
And some people that are still trying to stay young.
Yes.
I know they don't like when I say that just now. They're no longer young.
That's right. And I have to be a part of that club.
Right. You just trying to stay young. Right.
Yes. Oh.
When did you branch out and decided to have your own business as a hairstylist?
Well, I was working in the medical field, believe it or not. And I worked in the medical field for like 15 years. And I kept getting laid off. And I said, there's got to be a better way. And the Lord impressed upon me, like, you know what, you really need to start doing hair. It was going to be either hair or be a mortician.
Come on now.
Yeah.
That's one of my aspirations too.
Yeah.
You still like it?
I still do. And one of the services I provide for my clients, I do their hair, their last hairdo. So I go to the funeral home.
Oh my goodness, that's special.
Yeah, I go to the funeral home and do their hair and makeup if that's possible. But yeah.
Right.
But I started doing hair in 1999.
Is that right?
Yeah. So my hands.
I would get into more of the mortuary science thing, but I don't want to freak my listeners out. I can dig deep. My wife like this. Don't talk about it no more.
No more.
You're such a phenomenal soloist. Who did you listen to as a young person?
Oh my God, Ima Sumac.
Who is that? Tell us who that is.
She is an opera singer, and she could sing like really high, and her voice was just. It was so unique and different. And I'm like, oh, wow. I like that. I like her. And Mahalia Jackson.
Yes.
I remember when she died, Mahalia Jackson, when she died, and around our house it was so somber. I said, what happened? I could just feel the sorrow. My grandmothers were like, oh my God, Mahalia Jackson is gone. And I said, oh my God, that's, I could just feel the presence in the room. It was really very sorrowful. They loved Mahalia Jackson.
In your household, it was?
Yes, sir.
So, look, some people that don't sing gospel still think she's alive.
Oh, my God.
Still think, man, is Mahania gonna be there?
She gonna be there?
No, Mahania's not gonna
No.
show. I'm so sorry.
No, she can't make it this time.
Wow. So, is there any other gospel artists that you really like, kind of just patting yourself after at this point? Modern day?
Modern day, I'd have to say no one.
No one. No one. No one. You are a trip. You are a trip.
Yeah, I love so many of the artists, and it's really kind of hard to say, which one is my favorite and who I pattern myself after. People say that I sound like Patti LaBelle. Do you think that's true?
To some degree.
Oh.
Yeah. You have a higher range than she had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I said, Patti LaBelle. She's not gospel.
She's not.
So you couldn't think of anybody else that I sound like?
So let me tell y'all, Jackie Hawkins is a mess. If anybody wants to reach you, as far as to come sing at their church, how would they reach you?
Well, they can email me at jg1847 at gmail.com, or you can text me or call me at 240-398-0508.
And if anybody wishes to get their hair did,
how
can they find you for that?
They can call me 240-398-0508. I'm located in Capitol Heights, Maryland, not too far from the Home Depot. And the name of my business is Livingstone Designs by Jackie.
Last question.
Yes.
Any future aspirations? Where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
5 years from now, I think I'd like to have another salon. So I'd like to have
Expansion.
a number 2. Yes.
That's okay. That's great.
Yeah,
That's
that would be great. I don't know where, but I think I'd like to have another salon.
Well, I believe if it's in your gifting, then it's already in the Lord's will.
I believe
it's
so.
It's going to happen.
believe so.
I can do all things through Christ who gives me the strength.
That's right.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Reverend. Well, hold on. We can talk about your preaching. Oh my God! Just one more minute, y'all. Hold on for a second. How long have you been preaching?
Well, I got saved in October of 1988. I answered the call in 91. And I've been preaching and singing since then.
So y'all, she can preach, sing, and do your hair whether you're living or you're dead.
That's right. Yeah, you don't have to be alive to experience me.
Yeah, but you don't get paid but once. Listen, y'all, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
This has been a pleasure.
It really has.
We hope to have you back.
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, the
to.
Reverend Jacqueline Hawkins. We get ready to go to a video by yours truly and SOV called I'll Fly Away, and you'll recognize the intro when you hear it. Enjoy.
All right, come on, give me the old school move. Y'all ready? Get this way, come on. Some glad morning when this life is over. Oh, I'll fly away. Oh, I'll fly away to a home on God's celestial shore. Oh, I'll fly away. Oh, I'll fly away to be at rest with the Lord. Come on, clap your hands. Everybody just clap your hands. Yeah, yeah.
When the shadows of this life have
back, and I am here with, as they say in church, the illustrious pastor of the Mount Pleasant Baptist Church in Northwest Washington, D.C., Pastor Terry Streeter. How you doing, my friend?
Doing fine, man.
Pastor Terry Streeter is one of God's greatest preachers in this country, and he's one of God's greatest leaders in this area. I've seen him commandeer a room of strong-willed preachers, and he's not just that, but he's a preacher's preacher, and he's a great pastor and great person. I thank you for being on the show today.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Well, let's talk about your upbringing, how you got started. How did you, when was it, at the time you realized you were called to preach?
Well, I actually grew up in church. The church was my life.
Mm-hmm.
I was assistant superintendent of Sunday school when I was 12 years old.
Wow.
And sang in a quartet when as a teenager and
Mm-hmm.
so forth. People had always said that there was something special about me. Even in the second grade, I remember the principal of our school giving me a stern talking to about life, but said that there was something special about you. I tried hard to get away from the idea of preaching and all that. I liked basketball
Mm-hmm.
and girls and all the other things.
Did you play basketball?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
But it was something that I really couldn't get away from, and so that day came when I finally yielded to the Lord. And what was so interesting about it, I went to talk to my pastor about it,
Mm-hmm.
and he said, I told him that I felt that I was being called to preach. And he said, well, that's good, go back and pray. He didn't really understand what it took for me to get to that point.
Right.
But when I came back and to him and told him that I'm sure about it, and there was no question. And so when I started preaching in February of 1974.
How old were you?
Oh, 22.
Oh, okay. So when did you go to seminary?
Well, I went to Washington Bible College.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, well, that's great. I mean, so you were preaching, then you went to Washington Bible College, and then, I mean, how'd you become a pastor? Like, what was that process like?
Well, I was going to a school called Black Churchmen's Ecumenical Institute at the time, and L. Allen Bridges was also a student there. He was pastor of New Canaan Baptist, and he asked me to fill in for him one Sunday. And I went just as a young preacher to fill in, and not knowing that he would soon leave that church.
Wow.
And they didn't even know what my name was, but they remembered me from and that I was from Mount Pleasant Baptist, and I was the youth minister there. And so they called me over, and the rest was history.
How long did you stay at New Canaan?
11 and a half years.
Wow, and you got called to Mount Pleasant.
Called back to my home church.
Called back to Mount Pleasant.
Yes.
That is, and how long have you been pastor of Mount Pleasant?
It'll be 29 years in November.
Wow. So what are some of the challenges you faced as a young minister, being a pastor of a church, New Canaan and or Mount Pleasant, that you can remember?
Well, going to New Canaan, of course, this was my first church, and I was full of ideas and so forth. And I think the thing that helped me was having grown up in the rural. The core group was from South Carolina, and a lot of the things that they talked about, I understood because it was similar to my own upbringing. And so we sort of connected, and again, church became our life. New Canaan was a real magical time for me.
Wow.
It's really hard to explain. People who were there during that time that we'd have 4 or 5 services a Sunday.
What?
And yeah, we'd go everywhere in the sticks. Wherever we were invited, we went.
That's a different time.
Oh yeah.
People get on the church bus and go to afternoon service.
Yeah.
Different time than today.
Yeah.
How have you adjusted to the changing climate? I would call the impatient Christian now that comes to church and wants to be out in an hour and a half, 2 hours. How have you adjusted?
Well, I don't preach as long as I used to, but age did that. No, but seriously, our 2 services. One of the things people come for is the word, and
That's
even
great.
though they enjoy the music and so forth, we try to major on the word, and I try to preach in a fashion where they can put legs on the word. I preach in an outline fashion. They can go back home and study it again and tell others about it. I try to be simple. When I studied Jesus had what I call profound simplicity. A sower went out to sow.
Right.
And his messages were so simple but yet profound. And I try to duplicate that profound simplicity. So.
Well, let's get into sermon prep. That kind of segues in it. How do you prepare for a sermon?
Well, I tend to preach in series, and like I just finished preaching through the 39th Psalm.
Okay.
And when you preach in series, whether it's through a book or a shorter passage, you begin with an idea of the whole passage, and also your preparation is not just for that coming week, but you're ahead because you started by outlining the chapter and so forth, and you get the whole idea of it. And then you move from there, and so you got an overwhelming theme, and you don't have the Saturday night press of what you're going to preach, but you know next week you're at the next verse, and I found that preaching through series, and I do 2 different series a week, that when you preach a series, the people get engaged, and sometimes they're a little ahead of you. They can't wait till you get to a certain verse because they've always wondered what does this verse mean, and so forth. And so it helps to build a congregation and keep them Bible literate.
Wow, you have an intelligent congregation, and that's to your credit. You know, they come looking for preaching.
Right.
I find that to be the case at Mount Sinai as well. Pastor Queen, he's a teacher preacher. You know, he's very, very calculated in how he guides us through the Word. Who are some of your preaching heroes?
Well, when I was as a young preacher, I always wanted to preach biblically. We were having a good time at New Canaan. They kicked the benches over, but somehow during the week, people their lives weren't changing, and I prayed to the Lord, there's got to be something else. At Washington Bible College, I saw kids go out doing evangelism week, and they were going in the neighborhoods and getting decisions for the Lord that we weren't getting. And so as I prayed, A. Lewis Patterson came to town.
Wow.
And I sat and I listened. For once, here's a guy that took the Word. All of his points came directly from the Word and so forth. And I went back every day to hear him. And he and E.K. Bailey were 2 of the people that made the greatest impact on my life. Both of them were great friends of mine. They're going on to be with the Lord now. But those 2 guys with biblical expository preaching made a difference in my life.
I know as growing up, I heard a lot about you. You were known as the evangelist. You know, you could draw them in, but you also know as a great storyteller. Where do you get your stories from?
Well, as a youth minister at Mount Pleasant, during that time we had a children's church, and I was the preacher there, and preaching to children. You tell stories.
Right.
But what I noticed was that adults were coming to the children's church. And so if I told a story about a horse or a pig or something, the adults went out and said, man, that was a great horse, or, that was a great pig.
Right.
And the adults were talking about the stories that I told. And so I said, wow, this method that I used on children also worked on adults. And so that's how I got into storytelling. Yeah,
you got one almost for every occasion. I applaud you for that. I love it. I can tell when you're wrapping it up and when you got something to kind of bring it home. And then I'm like, this is brilliant. I love it. Let's talk about Sam Kendrick, your minister of music.
Okay. And
your relationship with him and how it has lasted almost 20 years. I was telling you off camera that is rare in our city. It's rare across the country.
Right.
But how have you all existed for that long?
Well, it's funny. It doesn't seem like it's been that long. Sam and I have just gotten along. I didn't really know who Sam Kendrick was. Isaiah Thomas was our minister of music, and he left. And so we were looking. And a lady who used to play at the church where Sam was said, you ought to try this guy. And so he came in, and he auditioned, and of course I acted like I knew what he was doing.
Right.
He played some classical pieces and some other things, you know, and I could read music a little bit and all. I played trombone in the band and all that. So but I liked him, and we just sort of clicked, and he has made a tremendous difference in our music. His mark is on it. I don't overburden him in music, and that's his area. But if there are things that I want, or songs that I think that we can do, you know, we talk about it. He's even put music to some things I've written. And
That's
all
wonderful.
That.
That's a great. That's when you know you got a great relationship going on.
Yeah. So we actually have a lot of fun, and while people talk about how rare it is, to me it's just normal. We've just had that kind of relationship.
Wow.
And I know that Sam could probably go other places and maybe earn more money than us, but I try to give him the freedom to do other things too,
right,
and all that, and it just works for us.
Look, on behalf of every musician in the city, thank you. Last but not least, let's talk about your family. Your wife and your children.
Okay.
Let's give a shout out to them real quick.
Oh yeah, to Cheryl and Daniel and our other children, Katrina and Chris and Nikki.
Wow, wow.
We have 4 children and 5 grandchildren.
Wow, so you have a full life.
Yes.
Christmas is something else around your household, isn't it?
Yeah, well, all 3 of them are grown. The little guy is only 7.
So you have to save as much as you once did.
Well, the little guy is a bit much. when you're my age and you have a 7-year-old.
Yes, Lord. Well, thank you so much for being on this show. I really appreciate it. Thank you for opening up yourself about the about the preaching and about the church and all of that. Big shout out to Mount Pleasant Baptist Church. It's a great church. Every time I come there, I have a great time.
Thank you.
And look forward to fellowshipping with you. Of course, we work together with the Citywide Revival and some other things. And you've been very supportive of me down through the years. I just want to thank you for that as well.
Yeah, I feel old because I remember you as a teenager.
Ladies and gentlemen, Pastor Terry Streeter. We get ready to go to an IGAA promo, and we'll be right back.
Tell us your name and how did you enjoy the 7th annual IGAA conference?
My name is Isaiah Radcliffe. I'm all the way from Birmingham, Alabama. I drove 11, 12, 13 hours to get here. We had bad weather, so it took me a little longer to get here, though. But boy, every moment, every session, every speaker was absolutely wonderful. Every group that sang were beautiful. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. I feel so informed after being here on this weekend. So thanks to Phil, thanks to his wife, and to the whole staff of IGAA. God bless you.
I'm Joe Green, and I live right here in Beltsville, Maryland, where the IGAA conference is being held, and it has been such a fulfilling and enriching and empowering experience. I just thank Phillip and Stephanie so much for hosting this, because I knew nothing about the industry other than just the songs that I released last November, and I learned so many things about ways I could have done things differently. I have new contacts, new avenues for success for my project, all kinds of website resources. I know people in the industry that are movers and shakers now, and it's just been such a enlightening experience. It's a little overwhelming, especially for a new artist like myself. But there's something for everyone here, whether you're a songwriter, a recording artist, a producer, manager, whatever it is. This is where you need to be to learn what you need to know. So it's been great. Thank you.
And we're back. That was a very riveting interview with Pastor Terry Streeter. Thank him so much for, we want to say thanks to him for coming and being a part of this show. Today I have my friend, now I've known you for a long time too, brother, master musician, producer, master singer, great supporter, Paul Avery. Thank you for coming on the show, man.
Man, it's great to be here.
It's great to have you.
It's great to be here.
This is going to be good. Before I get into anything else, let's just talk about this new single you got going on here. A lot of people know who you are. We'll get into the beginnings, but this new single you got, I believe, is very powerful.
Praise God.
And it expresses not only your heart, but the heart of a believer.
Yes.
Which is two different, which can be two different things,
Yeah.
but can also be together. But talk about this new single you got.
Well, the song actually came about when my mom was ill. She was in the hospital, and I just was in a place of just trusting God for healing, not knowing that it was actually the last stages. She was in the last stages of cancer.
Wow.
And we didn't know what the situation was until a few days before she passed. So when we found out, when the doctors finally told us what was going on with us, because she didn't want anybody to know what she was dealing with.
Right.
But when they finally told us, it was too late. But in the process, I remember when they came in and they basically said, you know, she has a few days. She's has a few days before she passed. And I went to my car at Howard, and I sat in the car, and all I heard was Yahweh, Yahweh, you are a miracle working God. I began to sing it. I began to cry and just weep for about 20 minutes. And I've been actually traveling in the last 6 or 7 years. And wherever I go, if God drops a song in my spirit,
Right.
I'll just sing it.
And I've known you to do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just spontaneously, you know, just sing whatever God says sing, and I'll sing it. And as you know, as a writer, when you sing those songs and you see the fruits of those songs, okay, you got one. God gave you one.
Right,
Gave you a good
right.
one. So I began to sing the song, and my bishop, Bishop Keeby, he would just say, sing the song. Every service, Yahweh, Yahweh. He didn't even know that God gave me the song.
Right.
Then from there, I booked a studio session. I went right in the studio, and I recorded the song. And actually, this song wasn't the first song that I was going to release as a single. And I remember when I came back from the first session, I came home, and my wife, she was like, "Yeah, you was in the studio." Actually, I did my first session. I went and recorded this song at Tyrone Power's studio.
Yeah, I did in Virginia.
Yeah. I just went out there. It was random. I was like, Tyrone, man, want to record some stuff, man. He was like, all right, well, come on out. So I went and recorded the song, and I got home. And my wife, normally I don't like to let my wife hear anything until it's done. Because you know our wives, they want it to be right. They don't want us to release anything premature. So, I said, you know what, I'll let you hear it. So I remember my wife, my daughter was on the couch. And I played it one time, and my wife, she just she goes into this mode. If she feels God on it, I don't care who it is. If she feels God on it, she'll just kind of get quiet. I played it, and when it was done, she said, "Play it again." And I played it again. I mean, just quiet, like she ain't say a word. When it was done, Phil, my wife was like, "Nah, Paul, you need to release this. This need to be the first song." Like the other song was, it's great. That's gonna be on the next part of the CD.
Right.
But my wife was like, release it, and we need to do whatever we can. So it's a prophetic song, and the timing of it, as you said, that is actually the meaning of that song. Is actually for believers that just no matter what you're going through, it's a testament that no matter what your situation is, God is still a miracle working God. You may not even be in need, or you may not, or you may have somebody or know somebody who needs God in a situation. This is just a testament to believe that whatever God says, that's what we trust His word, that He's a miracle worker.
Amen. And it's available right now. All major outlets, digital outlets.
Yep.
It's a good song, y'all. Go pick it up. It's got some major production on it.
Yes,
I listened to it today, and I know you took some time and spent some time on it.
Yes.
And I believe it's going to bless you, especially if you're going through some sickness. He is a miracle working God.
He's a miracle working
You are
God.
a phenomenal musician. You've been a phenomenal musician for a long, long time. One of the chief musicians at Ebenezer AME Church. Big shout out to them in Fort Washington, Maryland.
Yes, my family.
And the SDA, Capitol Hill SDA Church. We just had Michelle Riley in here a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
You have done it all. Talk to some young musician that's trying to make it. They're trying to work their way up in the church circuit or in ministry. What advice would you give to them?
I've had the chance to kind of minister to other musicians coming up along my way. I would say first, just make sure you're not just doing it because you love music. There are a lot of musicians. They're just, even they play in the church. They play in church because they just love music. You got to be careful of just loving music, because then you can play any type of music.
Right.
What is your foundation? Why do you do what you do? And I've had the opportunity to kind of share with musicians through the years. Just soak yourself in the Word. Get in the habit of making the Word your foundation, and making prayer and fasting even. So that you're not just playing music. Or that when you play, we'll see the fruits of your labor, and it's not just going and shedding all day. That's absolutely good. To study your craft and make sure that you're good, but to make sure that there's foundation under it.
Right.
It's the Word, it's prayer, and that's what I would tell all musicians. Make sure that it's not just a gig for you. My grandmother. I was raised by the late Dr. Rosie Best, and she actually taught me. She used to always say to me, "Paul, it's about the souls. Whatever you do, make it about this. It's about souls. It's about winning souls." So I mean, if you use that as a foundation, you'll always reach people.
Right. What's your future aspiration?
My future aspirations. I just really want to. What God has given me, I want to get it out. I just don't want God to come back and say, Paul, I gave you this gift.
Right.
And you went and you buried it.
Right.
You didn't, I want to be able to say that whatever God has given me, I've utilized it. I've been recording for years, but I think this project is probably the first time I'm doing it right. Sometimes you can cut some corners, you can do things, you can go through certain people, and it may not come out. You may have done some things. Oh, that was a good project. I'm glad to get it out, but some things you may regret. I don't want to regret, and I thank God for this process that I'm just going through every channel that I need to go through, the right channels, to make sure that this is a great project that I think it'll go down in history.
Great.
So.
Well, you want to know this is good. You started off great, and you have I've listened to some more of your stuff. It's been great. The stuff in the past.
Yeah.
Don't shine down on. Don't frown on that. It's good stuff. Talk about your family real quick.
You know what? I'm blessed to be married to my wife, Jocelyn Avery.
Hey, Jocelyn.
Yeah.
Emmanuel Baptist Church teenagers. You remember that, Jocelyn?
Yeah. My wife actually taught me how to sing. I'm not the greatest singer, but she's my songbird. She taught me how to sing, and she actually was the first person to encourage me years ago when I had a choir called the Ministry Choir.
I remember.
Yeah, years ago, and I used to share songs with her. And she was like, "Man, you could start a choir, And she actually encouraged me to really, go forth in my music. She's actually a music major. I don't know if people even know that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so my family is definitely my number one supporters. My son Nigel, he's actually in the music. He's playing drums in church. He's actually doing videos now. Actually, I have a new video that's on YouTube.
We're going to look at a little bit of it as soon as this interview's over.
You have it? Okay, cool.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. For Miracle Working God. It's on YouTube. And my daughter, she's about to go to college, so me and my wife, we about to be free nesters, so.
Look, man, we're going to have you back because I want to talk some more about musicianship, about ministry, things of that nature, and about your long career, because there's a lot more to you that needs to be brought out.
Absolutely.
And you're starting to come out your shell.
Absolutely.
I'm going to help you.
Absolutely.
I got some more questions for you.
Absolutely.
But man, thank you so much for being on this show.
Yes, sir.
Y'all pick up his new single, Miracle Working God. Yes. Paul Avery, y'all. We'll be right back. Y'all just hang on. Let's go to his song, Miracle Working God by Paul Avery.
Oh, send your healing. Heal us now. Heal us now. Send healing. miracles. I believe your signs and wonders. I believe your breakthrough. Come and hear us now. Our hearts are open. Let chains be broken. Come and heal us now. Your name is Yahweh. Yahweh. Your name is Yahweh. You are a miracle working God. I believe your miracle. Believe your breakthrough. Come and hear us now. Believe your miracle. Believe your signs and wonders. I believe your breakthrough. Come and hear us now. Our hearts are open. Chains be broken. Come and heal us now. Our hearts are open. Chains be broken. Come and heal us now. Come and heal us now. Your name, Jehovah Jireh, my provider. You're healing now. I feel you working. I feel you breaking. Your miraculous power. Oh, you restore. You redeem. You're my healing God. Yeah, Yahweh. You are a miracle working God. Yahweh. Yahweh, your name is Yahweh. You are a miracle working God. Yahweh, your name is miracle worker. Thank you for healing us, Jesus. Miracle working God.
We're back, and you just heard Miracle Working God by Paul Avery. Ain't that a nice song? Paul did a great job on that song. I am here with the legendary Tracy Morgan, with whom I have known now for at least 20 years. Yeah, it's been 20 years. You hosted my very first recording in 1997, Tracy. Woof, my goodness. You are the host. You're one of the hosts on Rejoice Musical Soul Food. Your wife, mother, program director of another station. And you'll talk about that later. And and recently I've been seeing stuff about you. Hey, come catch me. I'll be speaking here. I'll be preaching here. So thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let's talk about the early years. You're a Stellar Award-winning radio announcer. How did you get involved in communications?
Wow, it was a desire of mine since I was a little girl. I was about 13 years old, and it was real simple. The news was on. Mom was cooking dinner, what have you, and I said, hey, I want to do that.
Wow.
And I began to pursue it from there. The anchor that was on at the time was Lark McCarthy.
Yes.
Years ago, she was on WJLA, Channel 7, and she was only doing weekends at the time. And I fell in love with television and news, and it took off from there. It became a desire, and I pursued it.
So what happened after that? How did you get involved in radio after that?
Well, after that, because I was so heavily involved in television, and it's what I really, really wanted to do. I'm telling my age. Oh, I'm telling my age. But Carol Randolph had a show on Channel 9, and I remember it like it was yesterday. She had a show that featured female radio announcers, and I went to that particular show. So I'm in the audience, and I'm just like, okay, this is really cool. But there on the panel was Candy Shannon.
Yeah.
Oh, she was with Donnie Simpson back in the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Candy Shannon, Paul Porter, all of them at WKYS years ago. I walked up to her and I told her that I was studying at the time television, I'm sorry. And she said, "Oh, you have got to try radio." And she invited me to the studio. So I called her and she asked me to come, and I went up to WKYS, and she was so smooth on the air.
I remember.
She was so
her
smooth.
And Donnie, they were doing their thing,
yes. And I said, wow, I like this. And she was kind enough. I started doing audition tapes, and she was kind enough to actually critique those tapes. You know, so she began to critique those tapes, and I said, hey, I want to be a smooth R&B announcer like you, whatever. And she quickly put me in check and let me know, you need to know how to do country radio, gospel, hip hop, jazz, whatever it is, Quiet Storm. That's what you need to do. So I started applying for radio stations, and WYCB.
The anchor in this city, yes, absolutely.
But get this, Phillip, I was like, I'm not doing nobody's gospel.
Oh, wow.
So I was like not feeling it at all. I did not want to do gospel radio at that particular time, but God had a plan. He is so awesome. And I love telling that story because it was through gospel radio and the wonderful listeners who encouraged me through it all that I eventually gave my heart to God, and here we are now.
Wow.
Yes.
So you weren't even saved on gospel radio?
I wasn't saved. Shh. Don't tell anybody that. Don't tell anybody. Came up in the church, you know, and all that good stuff.
That's a lot of our stories, believe me.
I was not saved doing gospel radio back in the early 80s when I first got into it. And I did everything possible to try to wiggle my way out of it, but it kept pointing me back. And I have to tell this story because I remember getting a phone call from a young lady. I was doing overnights at the time, and I received this phone call, and she wanted prayer. And I'm thinking, I'm not saved. I can't pray for you. So I gave her Dr. C.L. Long's number. I said, call this number because I can't pray with you because I'm not saved. And she said, you're not saved? And she began to pour into me.
Is that right?
Yes, whatever she was dealing with at that time, she began to pour into me. So I just count that as a blessing to this day.
And here you are now.
Yes.
25 years later?
Oh gosh, a lot
Did I get it
more
right?
than that. Let's stay there at 25. No, you can add on another almost 10 more years.
Oh my goodness.
But you know, mind you, I started very, very young. I started very, very young. And so I'm still young.
That's right.
Enjoying,
That's right.
doing what I do. But I did start very young.
Wow, wow.
I don't have that story of, it was so hard to break into the industry. I don't have that story. God has really had his hand on my career down through the years.
Who has been some of your mentors down through the years in radio?
I would have to say Candy Shannon. I've just watched her. Valerie Coleman, KRN in San Francisco, way back in the day. She later went on to be with CNN, and she would allow me as a little girl, 13, 14, 15, I would sneak away and catch the BART train. Me and a good friend of mine, the BART is the transit system in California, and I would catch the BART and we would travel over to San Francisco and go to the television studio and hope we wouldn't get in trouble when I got back. But she would allow us to come and just sit in and meet her and that kind of thing. So those two were really, really inspirational to me down through the years, and just a blessing.
You've been instrumental in a lot of artists' lives. I'm sure major artists, but I can only speak for independent artists because I don't know all the others. But I know in my life you were instrumental because you were working at the station in Temple Hills. What was the name of that station?
WWGB?
Yeah, WWGB.
Okay.
Is that what it is?
Okay.
Yeah, I remember bringing my CD to you upstairs, and you played "I'm on the Battlefield," and my life is forever changed. But I'm sure you've sown a lot of seeds. But has there been an artist that you particularly is because of you or because of how God used you, that artist has now blossomed to do other things? I know I'm one of them, but is there anybody else that you can remember in your mind that was special to you?
You know, it's probably hard to pinpoint one because I have so many artists come up to me and say, you know what, thank you, you did this, you did that, you called this person for me, and I don't take any credit for it.
I know it's a tough question.
I don't take any credit for it, but it's good to know that you know, if you open yourself up and allow yourself to help others, it does
Right.
come back to you.
Well, let's get into that. Let's talk about advice to young artists. You're one of my guests for the IGA conference. You've been coming for years now. Thank you so much. But there are a lot of artists who out there, and they continuously are seeking for the magic bullet, the magic pill.
Right.
Can you offer some advice to those who are in it right now, trying to make it, whatever they call make it is?
Right. Well,
Yeah.
first I will say, do not get discouraged. A lot of times we make that mistake by just getting upset. You're calling PDs, you're trying to get the right producer, you're learning along the way and finding out, oh, I'm doing something wrong. But don't get discouraged. That's number one. And then secondly, find yourself a good mentor that can help you in that area of, you know, your recording, your music, and listening to your songwriting, building that relationship. And I think if we do those things, you're off to a pretty good start, because a lot of time we just get discouraged.
Right. Well, look, just over the weekend, Best Buy announced that they're no longer going to be selling CDs. They are phasing it out. Where do you see the music industry and gospel music industry going at this point? And what do you think we should do as artists?
As artists, I think you should stay the course. There are so, you know, and I'll speak from a standpoint of radio, because there are so many different outlets. A lot of times we forget about those college radio stations.
Absolutely.
We forget about so many of the other outlets to get our ministry or our music out there. And we think it's only one way, which has never been true.
Right.
There has always been several ways to get into the door. So I would seek out those other opportunities. And a lot of, you know, my husband and I talk about this a lot. Back in the day, artists, you would hear them singing, packing up. They will go hit everywhere. They will perform. They will, if there was an audience, they would be there. You know, now it's kind of hard getting artists to come out and just do your little old program. I just need you to come sing 2 songs for me, sweetie, that's all. And it's so hard to get them out. But back in the day, those artists who are legends now, they went out they worked. You have to work if you want results.
Right. And that, I mean, that we call it the grind.
Exactly.
You got to be on the grind.
Yes.
Shout out to your family. You know, I know your family, but let's talk about your husband and your wonderful daughter and things that are going on in your life that you probably didn't know about 25 years ago. But
Right. Well, you see me glowing.
Come on now.
You see me
Come
smiling.
on. Come on.
God has blessed me with a wonderful family. They allow me to be the best at what I do. It's because of them that I'm able to do what I do. My husband is very supportive. Many don't know that even on my nationally syndicated show, he is the producer. He is the one behind everything. He puts the show together.
Is that right?
He mixes everything.
Come on now, Keith. I didn't know all this.
Yes,
I didn't know
he
all
is
this.
the producer of the Tracy Morgan Show, and a lot of people, they don't know that. I go in, and you know, it's a challenge sometimes because he's rough on me.
Well, you know, I got one of those too. You know,
he's a little rough on me, so I have to remind him. Okay, now wait a minute. It's still my show.
It's still your show. That's right.
So, but yeah, he pushes me. He wants the best for me, and
That's a
lot of
blessing.
times where I am, he is.
That's a
So
blessing.
they are very, very supportive of me.
And your daughter, she's doing great things in school.
She's doing well in school, senior this year, so I'm excited about that.
Big time.
Yeah.
Oxon Hill?
Yeah. Well, no, not
Oxon Hill? Where's she at right now?
She is not at Oxon Hill. She is at Charles Herbert Flowers.
Charles Herbert Flowers.
Yeah, she's in
Okay.
the science and tech program, and she's doing extremely well there.
Okay.
So shout out to them.
Yeah, and shout out to Mike and April Chandler. from
Yes,
Rejoice
Musical Soul Food
Where
Radio
else do you work?
Network. Well, I work there Monday through Friday. I do the midday show. Rejoice Musical Soul Food Radio Network. They have been a blessing. We just came off the Musical Soul Food Festival.
Right. This is the second one, right?
This is the third year.
Third year.
Yes, and thousands of people come out.
Isn't that a blessing?
Oh my goodness, we had a wonderful time. So I do that, and then I also program radio station WBBP in Memphis, Tennessee. That is the late Bishop G.E. Patterson's radio station in Memphis, Tennessee, and I do the morning show there from 6 to 10.
So when did you start preaching, speaking, whatever you want to call it? When did you realize that there was something else that God wanted you to do?
When I stopped running. I said, oh, I got to stop running. My whole message was, hey, I do radio. I get on the air every day and minister to people, but that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough. So eventually I accepted the call many, many, many years ago now, and we've been going forth ever since. Just started to really put myself out there, so to speak, and just let people know and share that, yes, that is a part of me. That is something that I do. So I start talking about, you know, I'm going to be here, I'm going to be there. When normally I would just go and do it and just keep talking about radio. So now from time to time I will say, yes, I'm going to be ministering here, I'm going to be doing that.
Now we know.
Now everybody knows.
Evangelist Tracy Morgan.
Oh, Lord.
Last question, since we're on that topic, and we'll end with this. How do you now prepare to preach?
Prayer, a lot of prayer. Fasting. We don't like to fast anymore.
Oh, my.
But I won't get into that. But prayer, a lot of fasting, a lot of seeking God and hearing from God, and just being led by the Spirit.
You have a mentor in a ministry right now?
I do, and I love her dearly, Pastor Jean Terry. She's at Revival Center. Very seasoned woman of God, and she really, really, really ministers, and just really been able to pour into my life down through the years in terms of that mentor for ministry. She's been that person that I could actually go to for help, and she's helped me with structure. Whatever I need, she helped me with people and dealing with people. So it's just, she's really been a blessing to me. She really has.
Ladies and gentlemen, the preacher, the radio host, wife, mother. Did I miss anything? Program director, Tracy Morgan. Thank you so much. This has been a pleasure. Yes. Down through the years, you know, you've been a great friend and artist. She is a great resource in your ministry. You can always reach out to her, and she'll do her best to respond back to you. And she'll also be joining us next week, July 12th through the 14th, at the IGAA conference. You can log on now to www.indiegospelalliance.com to register for that conference. We also have free nightly worship services that you can come to. It's going to be held at the Queen's Chapel United Methodist Church in Beltsville, Maryland. So you can come out and meet Tracy if you already if you have never met her. You'll be meeting one pleasant individual. And with that, we bid you farewell on Real Talk with Phillip Carter. We'll see you next week.
For more information on how to become a guest on Real Talk with Phillip Carter, or for general inquiries, please email us at realtalkwithphillipcarter@yahoo.com.